Well, it's another Wednesday. Time for us to do AM business. Now, what would you give up if doctors told you you may never have a child the natural way? Some couples have spent as much as £23,000, and that is not even a guarantee. Odilia Ntiamoa takes a walk down the fertility lane and puts a cost to the various assisted reproductive technology methods.
Globally, about some 186 million people seek, fertility solutions, from various fertility clinics. It is estimated that about 1 out of every 10 women the world over is actually looking for some fertility-assisted ways of having children. But guess what? The problem is actually not just a woman problem, but more than half of the fertility problems in the world are coming from men. So globally, it's expected that, men contribute more to infertility issues, but women are largely blamed for, not helping produce the babies. I'm off to find out exactly why women are largely blamed and issues relating to what are the solutions to fertility issues right here in Ghana. More men between the ages of 18 to 45 have infertility issues than have diabetes. Men need 40 to 60 million milliliters of sperms to produce children, while women need an egg to be fertilized. Their situation is conclusive from birth, that is, women's eggs are produced from birth, while men produce sperms as they grow. Couples the world over are spending thousands of various currencies to have a child. The fertility industry makes about $300 million a year. With as little as 1,000 cities and as much as 35,000 cities. It depends on the conditions that you have. You could easily have a baby. So it could either be, medicines that are given to you to assist you to produce more eggs or to really stay fertile as a man, or an IVF, which could cost you as much as 35,000 Ghana cedis. But how many people can afford this if they have to do an IVF?
If you're not doing an insemination and it's just buying some tablets to take to get more eggs, and then you do a scan and they tell you it's ready, so trigger and have intercourse at this, that's very cheap. It's less than 1,000 cedis just for your drugs and your scan consultations and the rest. That may be all you need. So it could be that cheap. But when you bring an insemination in where you're going to do a procedure and maybe add injections and all that, then you could be getting to 4,000 or 5,000 cedis. When you come to IVF, depending upon the age, because the older you are, the more stimulation you require, so the drug cost will go higher, and then you may still need an IVF or an intracytoplasmic sperm injection. So let's say it could be anywhere between 25 to 35,000 cedis. To now the structural issues of where a tube may be blocked and therefore eggs may be there, but they can never meet a sperm, and both male and female. And then in our part of the world, one major thing is infections. Infections cause blockage of the tubes or peritubal adhesions, and that is a major cause of infertility in our part of the world.
These are all my injection needles that I have to start having in my backside, and quite long, do frighten me a bit.
You might just feel a small prick.
What I'm used to.
This is just for one attempt, which may not necessarily result in a child. Couples can wait for years if they need donors who look like them to either donate an egg or sperm to cut out the suspicion the child is not theirs.
Currently, the donor screening requires both screening for infectious diseases or genetic diseases. With the genetics, it's mainly sickle cell that we're looking for. Then you take a history to find out whether there's been any abnormal child to that kid, that client before. Typically, you want to use a younger person. So in our facility, we use between 20 to 30 years old. Preferably, if the person has had a kid before, then you know those eggs have been tested and proven to be good. And then, aside all this, you want the physical features to be close to that of the recipient as much as possible. Because if you get eggs from somebody who looks very much like you, fertilized with the sperms of the husband, then that offspring is going to look like the two of them. So it fits in very well with an offspring that would have come naturally.
I have come to speak to a man who took 13 years to have a child and the president of the Childless Couple Association. Nanaya will say he had an IVF in 2015 and a child in 2016, spending 10,000 cedis. He started the Childless Couple Association to encourage others without children to have one in 2012.
At the time, I went around the various fertility centers that we had, both in Accra and Kumasi. The majority were in Accra, but at the time there were only two in Kumasi, trying to seek rebate for couples who, through the NGO, will go and do the fertility treatment. But it became difficult because almost all the centers I visited refused us the rebate, the discount, giving various reasons. All right, so it was one clinic in Kumasi, who rather collaborated with us.
But he lacked something. He did not have a child of his own. So 3 years after establishing the NGO, he was forced to have his own through an IVF.
I realized that instead of motivating people with my circumstances during the seminars, the workshops, and the conferences that we held, I was rather pushing people away because of the perception that if I don't have, then I can't help them to have. So finally, we decided to go and do the IVF ourselves in the year 2014. You can imagine, so that means 2015 rather, 2015, because we had our child on 4th August 2016.
Nanaya says it's not enough to wait till you marry to know you can or cannot have children. Technology is advancing, and the walking egg technology from Belgium is one of such technologies.
With a conventional method, for instance, you need an air filtering system, where it filters the air before you can do the process of fertilization, that's getting the eggs of the woman being fertilized with the sperm of the man. But with the walking egg method, you don't need that because everything is done within the tubes, all right? So you don't need that cleaner air as compared to the conventional method. So it cuts down the cost drastically.
For our part of the world, what we may pass as genetic editing is the helping couples who have sickle cell carrier status to avoid having children with sickle cell. Now we can do that, but it is not genetic editing per se, but maybe genetic selection, where you do an IVF for two couples. They are both AS, which means they can have embryos that would be SS, who will really suffer sickle cell disease, or they can have AS like themselves, or even AA. So the main one you want to avoid is the SS. So you can biopsy these embryos and select the ones that do not have SS and put those back so they would not have children with sickle cell disease, and that has started.
So with 10,000 cities here, you can have a child also. Whichever method you choose, while you are young, check on your status, and you may never know, you could save yourself some money and emotions.
Well, it is said that children are a heritage from the Lord. It is our hope and prayer that in your quest to have them, it may not cost you an arm and a leg. That's all for AM Business. We do AM Business every Wednesday here on the AM Show.